purification systems, and Mountain House freeze-dried foods that have a 30-year shelf life. Keep an eye on your family and keep them safe with our do-it-yourself spy camera systems. Mention that you heard this ad on the radio and you'll receive a free LED flashlight with your order. Visit SouthSummit.com. That's South Summit, S-U-M-M-I-T, SouthSummit.com. Or call toll-free 1-800-234-8654. That's 1-800-234-8654.
The Genesis Communications Radio Network proudly presents The Alex Jones Show, because there's a war on for your mind.
All right, for this single segment, we have Representative Dennis Richardson of Oregon, who has introduced the bill, HJM 17, in Oregon to declare 10th Amendment sovereignty, which the states already have, but it's important to restate that. Some states are passing this, other states aren't. New Hampshire was narrowly defeated, sadly, last week. But the point is, the rediscovery of the 9th and 10th Amendment is happening, that the states created the federal government. The federal government isn't allowed to hand over all our sovereignty to foreign corporations or groups or the UN. The feds aren't allowed to come in with unfunded mandates and boss the states around. And so that's why we're continuing every week to have a couple state reps on from these different states, like Representative Dennis Richardson of Oregon, who's introduced HJM 17. And I have a copy of that resolution up on Infowars.com for folks that want to see it. Sir, thank you for coming on with us today.
It's a pleasure to be with you.
Okay, in the 10 or 12 minutes we've got with you, break down why you've done this, why it's important, and how folks can get behind this resolution there in Oregon.
Well, what we have in the country over the last couple of decades especially is the federal government has been treating the states as if we were subordinate to them. It's like the states are branches of the federal government, and that's just basic intimidation, and it should not continue. We have federal ID, which has been foisted upon the people without even debate in the Senate, and it basically says we're going to have a national ID card. It's going to cost billions of dollars to implement, and it's an unfunded mandate without protection of our documents. We have continuing redeployments of the National Guard to foreign lands to fight foreign wars as if they were an additional branch of the military. That is unconstitutional based on the original Constitution. We need to help assure that the federal government understands that they're given enumerated rights, and that the rights that they are not specifically given remain with the states and with the people. That's what the 10th Amendment guarantees.
Well, you I'm sure know, under Northcom, without an act of Congress, the Pentagon is announcing they're fully federalizing and absorbing the state guards, and the governors, they say, will serve under PDD 51 and others, other presidential directives, at the pleasure of the president, and that Congress is ceremonial now during emergencies, including economic or any other emergency. That is open dictatorship. We've had the federal Congress threatened with physical martial law, according to senators and congressmen that we have interviewed and have been on record saying they were threatened with martial law by the White House if they didn't pass the banker bailout bill of October 3rd.
That's absolutely right. That occurred, and we should be shocked. I mean, we must take action before we lose our nation. This is 50 United States that has joined together and created the federal government. We did not plan the federal government having a Praetorian Guard or to be able to intimidate the states to do whatever they want. In many ways, they've done it through money by getting the states so committed to obtaining federal funds. Of course, the federal funds are funds that come from the states, people that live in states and their wallets and bank accounts. But unless there's some change that takes place in the way we, the people, accept the government and the power that's being imposed upon us, we're going to just get more of the same.
Well, sir, as you know, history hath shown that every time you allow a central government to do whatever it wants, it always creates a tyranny. That is the law of governments and of how humans operate. So people shouldn't be surprised that a classical tyranny is now forming with gun confiscation bills, gun registration bills introduced, with national civilian workforces, FEMA camps all over the news being built for our own good, in quotes. Can you specifically speak to, as a representative, what it's like witnessing this unfold, A, and then B, how much support are you getting? Is it bipartisan? What is the sense of your legislature? Are they becoming educated?
Well, I think that it's going to be doubtful that this will make it all the way through the Oregon legislature. I don't feel that the Democrats who are in charge of Oregon's House and Senate fully see the importance and the emergency that I see and that I feel exists across our country. I'm trying very much to get this to be a bipartisan bill. We have a few Democrats that have signed on it. One is co-sponsoring it with me. But to see if it's going to be able to get through the House, the Senate, and signed by, or the House and the Senate, since it's a memorial, it's going to be a different question.
Well, resistance is not futile, and the fact that some states are passing it, many others, now more than 30, introducing it, does show it's an education process. And as things worsen and as the tyranny becomes more and more obvious, I think this is a very important first step in people realizing the solution is the states declaring their inherent sovereignty.
Absolutely. We need to impress upon Congress the importance of restoring the balance of power. Congress has relinquished to the executive branch of our country far too much power, and they can take it back if they're willing to stand up and show the courage to re-implement and to rededicate ourselves to the constitutional provisions which were designed to keep us from falling into a tyranny.
What do the other state reps in Oregon say? Because I've been asking all the state reps that have been on this. Some say everybody's waking up. Others say some are waking up. Others say hardly anybody is realizing it. I mean, do you go to them and say, did you know they've signed directives that the federal Congress is ceremonial? Do you know they're building FEMA camps? Do you know they're federalizing the Guard? Do you know the Army's saying Northcom's going to put troops in every city? Do you understand that we're going into a classical tyranny? I mean... So first off, do you say that to them? And B, what do they say when you try to warn them?
Actually, I don't go into that kind of detail. It is not so widely known. I mean, I read a lot and I try and understand it, but it is not clearly understood how serious the problem is. There's not a sense of emergency. I mean, some are asking, some make things happen, some watch things happen, and some say, what happened? And that's where we're at right now. Most people are still not even seeing the sense of urgency that we should all be feeling.
Well, that's the good news, though, is that it was a minority. 2% started the war, 5% won the war. The rest sat on the bench in 1776 through 1784, 85. And so it doesn't take a majority to win. Most people are on the fence. They're in the bleachers. They don't know which end is up. They're in la-la land. You've got the bad guys on one team and the good guys on another. There are more good guys than there are bad guys. We just have to get into positions of power at the county, city, state, and federal level, and we have to spread the word about what's really happening so that as this system unfolds, people will then understand what's happened.
Well, that's true. I mean, it's about educating the people to the situation in which they find themselves, because you're not going to get it from the media, and you don't get it from the normal channels of information. It's got to come for the internet and from individuals that are willing to get together and take the commitment, make the commitment that they're going to be a part of a solution before it becomes too late.
And to do that, people have to face the full severity. They have to realize this isn't just some boss hog, corrupt federal government with some pork barrel. They are hiring the preachers covertly to tell their flocks to hand in their guns and go to FEMA camps, now declassified on record. They've hired 50,000 InfraGard corporate executives with shoot-to-kill orders. They are federalizing, putting federal surveillance cameras up everywhere. I mean, a nightmare control grid is going into place so the foreign banks can loot this nation. And the people need to understand that we are being treated like a third world country. We are being imploded right now.
That's true. We are. We can become a third world country if we're not careful.
Well, what can we do to help get this bill passed or to put pressure on the Oregon legislature, to give them a crash course in education? I mean, if it's in session right now, people could print up the news articles about the FEMA camps, PED 51, about Bush was trying to set up a dictatorship, Obama's continuing it, the White House memos about banning free speech. I mean, can't listeners, go physically to the Capitol and try to have meetings with their state reps? I mean, isn't that even better than phone calls?
Absolutely. When people actually show up, it makes a big difference. I mean, you have the teachers show up when they have work in service days. You have advocates for different programs. They come, but the common person rarely really shows up here because they're working, trying to make a living, trying to make ends meet. But it does help.
You know, I've talked to so many successful people in business and art and life, and they say just showing up is half the battle. The American people need to just show up, don't they?
It's the first step of leadership, is to be there, to have your voice heard.
Absolutely, folks. You're not going to save the world by yourselves, but showing up is half the battle. Specifically,
there is something that could be done also, and that is to send emails. I mean, you know, that does help to have pressure be felt. I have a series of newsletters that I send out, and there's one of them actually has the list of all the emails for the senators, the governor, and the representatives in the state of Oregon.